Yo, 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 what is going on, CoD Familia? It is your boy BN, aka Mr. Kingdom Builder, and in today's video, we're going to be giving you that deep dive T5 PvP breakdown for the matchup that is the strongest or number one KvK group going into Season of Strife Winners Upon Us, or SoS2 for short. So we're going to show you all the goods and all the deets, and as always, if you enjoy the content, make sure you throw us some, because it helps out a lot. We will eventually be doing a comparison video later on after we introduce the top 5 groups, where we'll go through either all of them together or maybe separately, and we'll talk about, is this the best matchup that the groups could have come to an agreement on. So as we dive in, here is the group right now. We have 57, 41, 30, 22, 45, 32, 54, 61, 29, and 23. Don't worry, we're going to show you what that means here right now. So this is the strongest group at 179 billion power. Again, this was, I believe, pre-Brink of War that we ended up capturing this for how the group looks. Obviously, they're most likely stronger at this point. And then the matchup that we ended up getting is as such. We're going to show you the map too as well, but we're going to show you the data first. So as we're diving in, keep in mind this data was pulled the day after Brink of War finished, so I think it's been 2 days or so, give or take, from then. And again, the numbers will most likely be stronger. But initially going in before Zone 2 opens, we have the groups as such. Kingdom 23, 22, 23, 30, 61 are together. 29, 32, 41, 45, 54, and 57 are together. This is what the PvP power looks like. So this time around, we did 60 mil plus. Last time we did, I believe, 50 mil plus. And the reason I decided to do 60 mil plus this time is because I figured if you're at 50 mil plus, one, you probably have around 1 T5 unlocked, maybe not that many troops, or you have maybe a little bit more. It didn't feel like it was a lot at that point, especially from some of the feedback that I ended up getting from some people that were nice enough to reach out and kind of share, along with also going off the free-to-play records. And this is something that I think is important here. I can actually show you guys this. Where's my free-to-play records? These are like all my recent stuff. But like here, we'll show you this off. So if you look at free-to-play and you look at first T5 unlock, right? People that were getting T5 unlock are around 55 mil for the first time that they got it. Now, keep in mind, free-to-play is going to be a little bit slower than someone who's spending. That's different. But if I'm using this as a baseline, you could say that a lot of people are unlocking their first T5 around mid to high 50 millions. So, going off of that, along with the fee and combining that with feedback I received, I figured let's just use 60 mil this time as a baseline. With that in mind, PvP power is combined power for 60 mil and above. The Alliance power is stronger than the PvP power, right? This is supposed to be your punching power for 60 mil power players and above. You could see the amount per each Alliance at each of the tier breakdowns. We added on a 200 mil breakdown this time around, and you can also see the totals for each of the columns depending on the group you're looking at for top and bottom. Now, as we get to some of the deets here, you'll see that at 60 mil, we'll just say Group A versus Group B, or we'll just say the EIS group versus the BDO group, right? Just because they're the strongest, I think, or we'll say the NF57 group. So on the EIS side, we have 237 60 mil players versus 327 60 mil players on the NF side. We have 262 players on the 80 mil plus at 80 million plus versus 211. At 100 mil plus, we got 145, actually even. 125 mil plus, 32 versus 23. 150 mil plus, we have 15 versus 18. 200 mil plus, 13 versus 10. Total T5s we're seeing is 704 versus 734. We'll show you those in a moment. I also did kingdom power, so we just kind of added these up for any of the kingdoms that have 2 or more alliances in for what the KP power looks like. And then we did a number of 100 mil breakdowns, so you can see that as well. However, the important part is if we get to the summary here. The summary, and we're going to show you this on the map too as well, and kind of explain how maybe some of the fights could play out. We have on one side, you have 704 total T5s at the time, 76.233 billion power, and they had 205 100 mil pluses. Oh, I don't think I did the plus minus thing, actually, now that I'm thinking about it. We'll do 30. I'm just realizing this now. 4, 9, and then... oh gosh, where's my calc real quick? Because I totally forgot to do that too. Oh, what is that, 70? Oh, I did it wrong. 233 minus 64.906. Okay. So that comes out to, what is that, 11.327. Okay, fantastic. So We're back on track. And then on the other side, we have 734 T5, 64.906 billion power, and 196 players at 100 mil plus. So the differentials look like plus 30. That's in favor of the NF BDO side. And then we have power. That's 11.3 billion in favor of the EIS and, let me come back over here. EIS and we'll say ANCS side. And then you have plus 9 100 mil plus players in favor of the EIS ANCS side. So the thing we often talk about here is that I'm okay with, right, we usually like to see it where power and total T5s are greater on one side. And this isn't overwhelmingly greater. It's not lightly greater. It's kind of like depending on the total amount, right? So, and then on the other side, we want to see more 100 mil players. So an example of this could be something such as if maybe the BDO and the BDO side and NF side had, like in this situation where they're lower power and they have about the same amount of T5s, I would like to see them have more 100 mil plus players in this case. If not, I would like to see them have more power, right? So if it's like 80 bill to 76 bill, but the total T5s are close, even if the ANCS and EIS group has a little bit more 100 mil plus players. So that's typically how we like to see balance, right? It's one group has more power, more total T5s, the other group has more 100 mil pluses. But again, not where it's overwhelming to a point where it's a clear disadvantage. Now, let's take a look at the map. So this is how the map looks right now, where we have G1 is comprised of the BDO NF57 side. G2, is the ANCS EIS side. Now, as we're looking at the map, you can see clearly that there is the opportunity for fighting to actually happen in every Zone 2, which is nice. Right, you have the G2 versus G1 that could be fighting here. You got the G1 versus G2 that could be fighting here. And then the G1 and G2 that could fight here. However, when we look at the group here, if we're looking at Kingdom 29 and 45, they combine for about 15.7 billion power. Going up against 23, they're at 19.56. So they are at about 4 billion power less than they are. If we're totaling up 100 mil plus players for 29 and 45, we would be looking at 29 100 mil plus players versus 61 on the 23 side, right? So more than double. This obviously lends an advantage, I think, pretty clearly on the 23 side when going up against G21. So my prediction right now would be that Kingdom 23 ends up winning out the Zone 2 versus them. If we look at this matchup for 22 and 30, they end up coming in at around 21.4 billion power versus 32 and 41, where they're at 27.8. So, gosh, 7 billion more power going in favor of the G1 group here. Along with, if we're looking at 100 mil plus plays for 22 and 30, we see that they have 53. So there's 53 100 mil plus players here. On the 32-41 side, they have 122. So that's a lot. It's almost 2.5 times about. And so that's a nifty bit. And so I think it's pretty clear that the G1 group here would probably take the win. So if you're looking at it, it's 1-1, right? The G2 group up here is probably going to take the win, right? I would say decent advantage. This is an overwhelming advantage here. And then if we look at the G1, the last G1 versus G2 group, Kingdom 61, they have 24.85 billion power. 54 and 57 are at 21.2 billion power. So it's about 3.5 bill difference that's going in favor of 61. 61 has 91 100 mil plus players, whereas Kingdom 54 and 57 have 45. So they have more than double. I think it's pretty clear that the G2 group here for 61, right, will probably end up getting, at least I should say, has an advantage, right? And I would probably make an early prediction to say 61 has that advantage where they would end up taking the Zone 2, most likely. In that case, we're seeing kind of a 2-1 in favor of the G2 group versus the G1 group. even though the G2 group is overall at a little bit more, or excuse me, I should say the G2 group is at a little bit more of an advantage, right, based on having, right, 11 billion more power, having 9 more 100 mil pluses, whereas the other group has 30 more total T5s, right? So that's kind of how that looks. If we go in-game now, again, pretty much, I would say for the most part, really kind of covers everything on that front. But let's take a look at the map, because again, we're already here, outside of just showing you the screenshot. If that ends, and again, maybe we'll talk like Zone 2, Zone 3 progression at a later time. But the final thought I want to leave you with here, and again, I'd love to know what you guys think. Do you think that this is the fairest matchup for those of you that have maybe crunched the numbers in other areas? Again, I haven't had the time to do that myself, but I will be doing that and then posting another video on it. The thing I'm going to say here is, even regardless of what happens in Zone 2, once we see the fight going out in Zone 3, and that'll be interesting because they are on opposite sides, right? Who has the opportunity to maybe win a Zone 3 out? If we're looking at the numbers, and I guess the last one I'll give you is how do the Zone 3s look for the groups that are there? Well, to be honest, there's really only one matchup, right? And that matchup is this one over here. Am I on the right side? We are. So on this side going into Azanor. On the northwest side is Kingdom 29 and 45. Now, 29 and 45 come in with, let's see here, what do we have? 29, 45, what was that? 15.7 billion power. And then 22 and 30 are coming in at 21, right? So it's almost 6 billion power more. 22 and 31 also, what do we have here? 22 and 30. They have 53 100 mil pluses. On the other side for 29 and 45, they have 29. So, I mean, it's not double, but it's, what, 1.6, 1.7 times more. So I think that's pretty clear in favor of 29 and 45 that they probably have an advantage when it comes to winning out the Zone 3, which if that's the case, then that would mean that they get the Zone 3, 32, 41, 54, 57, get this Zone 3, and that would leave 23 and 61 with this Zone 3. Right, so it basically would turn into, at that point, a 1v2 with these two Zone 3s collapsing on this, kind of sandwiching. However, 22 and 30 could flank them from behind once the adjacent Zone 3s open, if that ends up playing out the way it does. But the challenge, once again, is that the KvK could be over, and that's my greatest fear. If I leave you with my last point, that is absolutely my greatest fear, is that what happens if the KvK is done in Zone 3, right? And let's just go back here for a moment so I can show you this, right? If the KvK is done in Zone 3 before we even get to Zone 5. And that, once again, based on how they have the passes opening, it very much feels like that could happen. And it feels like that could happen in every KvK. So at that point, if the Zone 3 adjacent passes for, I believe, the level 6 passes open before the level 7 passes, will these alliances work together to say, look, we're not going to fight each other in the adjacent Zone 3s, we're going to fight each other in the final zone? Or will they not care, and then the KvK will finish and be done in Zone 3, and we're not even really going to be able to see any Zone 4 action? So, again, I hope it doesn't happen. I hope that we're able, like, the optimistic side of me really wants everyone to be able to fight it out in that crescendo-ish Zone 4. But who knows, right? I mean, clearly we saw a number of KvKs where that did not happen last season, and then we saw a couple where it did. Again, right? And I guess that's more so like if they were able to kind of hold at the passes until those level 7, at the level 6 pass, until the level 7 pass open to go in to the final zone. But, you know, I don't know, man. It's just this idea of like the KvK, this idea of every KvK being able to finish off in Zone 3 without getting any true Zone 4 action. It's just such a massive letdown. With that being said, that's it for me. I'd love to know your thoughts. Let me know in the comments down below. As always, until next time, we'll catch you later.